Hello, welcome to this tutorial. Today I'm going to take you through a quicker way to create anchor bolts for steel column bases. These are normally casted in concrete column bases prior to erection of steel columns. Welcome once again, and let's get started right away. If you take a look on the screen, you can see a grid here, and we are going to create the anchor bolts and distribute them all, or spread them all over these points you're seeing here: 1, 2, 3, 4 and 12. Now let me just go straight and click column right here. Then I'll just snap on one of these points, right click and exit by clicking interrupt. Now I want to change the size and some properties of this column. I'll just change it. I'll just double click on that column, and remember, the column is not very important. The column, we are using column just to guide us in creating the anchor bolts. Now once you've double clicked on that, we'll give it some time to load everything and bring it close. I'll come to profile, then click select there. This one will take me straight to profile catalog to pick on the appropriate size of my choice. Now I'll minimize this by clicking on that negative sign and minimize that, and I'll come to universal beams by going straight to eye profiles here. Then I'll come to universal beams there. Now I'll pick on the first, on these 4, 6 size, and pick on the first option right there. If you take a look on your right hand side, you can see the properties of the column: the height, the width, the web thickness, the flange thickness, all this. Then now apply and give it an acceptance by clicking on OK right there, and you go do the same thing here by clicking modify and click OK. But we want to change this color. Let me just click on empty screen. You can see the color is not very attractive. Now we want to change that by just clicking on it, then come here and change the code. We'll give it a different code apart from 7 to change that color. I'll click modify to change that color. That's it. It has changed to gray. This is much better. Now I'll come to applications and component here to place my base plate. Now from that base plate, we'll be able to now to get off whatever we don't want and remain with our anchor bolts. Now I'll click on applications and component here. Then from here I'll just click on just type here base plate. Just type base plate or just base. The program will detect and present to you a number of macros that you might be looking for that start with the same name. Now just click inside here and scroll down and try to look one of them if it might be here. Then fortunately enough, I have found it. I want to use a stiffened base plate, or numerically known as 1014 here, or you can just type 1014, it will come. I'll click on stiffened base plate macro to create the base plate, which will then delete the column and remain with the base plate and the anchor rods or the anchor bolts. I'll click on that. Then after clicking on that, you can read at the bottom end here, pick the part you want to place the base plate on. I'll select on that. Then instruction will come again: pick the position where you intend to place the base plate. I want to snap right at the center bottom of the steel column. I'll click that and give it some time to load the settings, or to load the base plate. The base plate is here with us, and we don't really need the column. What we are going to create, I mean our main interest is the anchor bolts, or the holding down bolts, and these are required prior to casting the concrete column bases. So this has to be done prior to the steel column erection. Now let me just right click and click interrupt to exit from that move command or base plate command. And again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to double click on this base plate to access the window properties of the base plate, so that I can customize this to increase the number of bolts, or and also to place my anchor bolts in place, so that I get rid of this steel column. Now let me just double click there so that we get the window up. Here we are, we have the macro already opened, and if I zoom out and bring it so close so that whatever you do here, we can have a preview of it right here. So you might be interested in how to organize these stiffeners. To do that, let me just shift slightly off the point. Let me just first of all rearrange these stiffeners if you're interested, or if you have no idea how to do that before going to the main subject of anchor rod or anchor bolt creation. Let me come to stiffeners here. I'll click on stiffeners here, and I want to bring this stiffener right here. I don't want this to be at the edge here. Just come here and pick on this. I want that to shift to the midpoint right there. You can see that that's shifted right there. So this is the arrangement that it's normally used to connect the base plate and the steel column at the bottom end, at the bottom end here. But you can see this stiffener is slightly large and is exceeding the length of, or exceeding the width of the base plate. We can adjust the size of that here by feeding that right there. We'll give it 80 millimeter, and we'll come here and click modify to accept the modification here by clicking the modify button. There we are, and let's come to the middle one, and we'll feed 80 also right there, and I'll click modify to accept the modification. And if I bring it close, you can see this chamfer, and we don't need this at all. To get rid of that, you come to stiffen at the bottom end here and feed 0, and come here also and feed 0, and also come here and feed 0 right here, and feed 0 right there, and click modify for everything to take effect right there. Apply and give it an acceptance here by clicking an OK button right there. Give it some time to process that information, and here we are. We have our base plate stiffened to the steel column. Now let's go to the anchor bolts. We want to now to bring our anchor bolts in place. At the moment you can only see the marks for holes. There are only 2, but we need around 4 of them that will be anchoring our steel column right at the concrete column base. Now double click on that once again so that we get back to this. Once you double click, that will take us to this column base macro window, this one here, and from here we'll be able to customize whatever we want to. Now let me just put it on that spot, and the next step is we'll go to bolts first so that we know how many anchor bolts that we will be using. Now I'll come to bolt size here and pick 20 right there, and I'll give it that size 8.8 XOX right there. And how many bolts do we want? So we need 4 of them. We need 4 of that at an interval of 160 or 150 will be okay, center to center. And I'll come here and I'll click modification button to accept the modification. Now we have the 4 marks for the bolts, but the anchor bolts are not yet in the place. You cannot see them, so unless we instruct the program to place for us the anchor bolts at the bottom end here. How do we do that? We come to anchor rods here, and let me first of all go back and change or increase the thickness of these plates, though our interest, as I told you, is the anchor bolts. So the use of this plate is not really important. The base plate is just to restrict our bolts into position that will be matching the holes that will be at the bottom end of the steel columns. So the bottom this base plate, this plate is not that important, but its main reason why we are using it is just to restrict or to maintain the anchor bolts in position when doing the casting. So let's just increase the length or change the thickness of the base plate here by just clicking 20 or feeding 20 right there. Then come here and accept the modification by clicking that modify button. So you can see the plate is has increased in thickness, and accept the modification, and now give an OK by clicking an OK button here. But I've clicked an OK button, but still we want to work on the macro, so we'll bring it back. I've just clicked on OK to exit from that macro, but we still want to do so many things with that macro. Double click on this once again to bring. Here we are, and we go straight to anchor rods. Now we want to bring the anchor rods. We've indicated the number of bolts we want. It doesn't matter whether how this stiffener is protruding that off the size of the base plate, but we can adjust this size by coming back to stiffeners here. We come back to stiffeners, or we can come back to bolts just to increase the length of this bolt. How do we do that? By coming here and increasing the center to center bolt distance, and click that, modify, and we'll see that changing that. You can see it has now moved to match the position of our stiffeners at this end. Now we go back to anchor rods, and we come under anchor rods in this section and of base plate with what we don't want to use the default setting. We have three options here. We have the bolts, anchor bolts, and custom components. Now we want to use the anchor bolts, so we'll pick on the anchor rods right there. So we want a protrusion of 100 above the base plate. We'll type 100 right there, because we'll use around 2 nuts on top of that to keep our steel column base in position over the concrete column base. Now we want to increase the length of these anchor bolts, so we'll come here and feed here. Want it to go deep by 1 meter down the concrete. Now, having done that, you come here and also include the nuts, and this side also include the nuts. Once that has been done, what you can do, you can go ahead and click modify here. Click modify to accept the modification you've just done. You can see our rods are straight, and this is a preview of what you expect. So we want to create some hooks on our anchor bolts, so we'll just click on this drop down arrow and pick on this and click modify, and see how this is appearing on the end here. It's okay, but it's not the way the bends are too big. So to adjust the bend, we just come to B, so that center to this center, we come to B here, and we'll feed 100mm bend, and click modification button right there, so that you can see how this is coming out. This is the best way, and we'll accept the modification by clicking the apply button, and that's all. We can now get rid of this macro window. I'll close that by clicking on OK button right there. Perfect. Now, having this in place, and we want to get rid of any signs of active macro in place, now we'll right click and come to withdraw right here to get rid of this. Now I'll repeat again, our interest is just this, the anchor bolts. We don't need the column in place. So what do? If we delete the column right here by selecting on it and click delete, everything will disappear. Even if we disable the assembly by clicking this button right here, by disabling the assembly by clicking this button right there, and if we click on the column and delete that, still everything will go. What do? What we'll do, we'll just take back the assembly to where it was, and what we'll do, we'll just explode this we'll explode this base plate. Right click on it and right click and come to explode the component, and click on empty screen, then pick on the steel column, right click and come to delete. You get rid of that, and the stiffeners are still in place. What we do, just pick on the stiffeners, press Ctrl and select on everything here, then right click and come to delete here and get rid of the stiffeners. Right click and redraw and redraw. But you will realize that the moment you did the explosion, you exploded the part, I mean the base plate, everything is now independent. If you select one of these, it selects itself independently. So we want to bring back the assembly so that when we select this base plate, everything gets selected because it's one unit. They will be casted as a unit, as assembly, and when doing the concreting. So what we do, we'll include all these into one assembly, and to do that we just press Ctrl and select on these bolts or anchor bolts here. We'll select all of them, right that individually, then right click and come to add to assembly. We'll mouse over this, we'll mouse over the base plate to include it into the base plate assembly. Click on that, then click yes, click on empty screen. So if you want to try whether the assembly is back or assembly is trying to be back but not fully back, press Ctrl and click the base plate. You can see the anchor bolts and the base plate are in assembly, but what is excluded is the nuts are not in the assembly. So what we do the same thing by selecting the nuts first. Press Ctrl and select all these nuts, all of them. Select that, select this, select that. Then after selecting everything, just right click and come to Alt to assembly and include everything into the base plate assembly. So click on empty screen to deselect what you just selected, and to try whether the assembly has been created back, press Alt and click on any part of this, and you'll see everything gets selected, and that's all. So if you let me just come to navigate and try to rotate this using mouse, and you can turn that round, and that's how it's done. Perfect. You can turn that round, turn that round. And creating the model is not just enough. You cannot submit this model to the workshop for the fabricators to do all this unless you are involved in the fabrication yourself, so that you can pick the dimensions right from your system or the computer by clicking on the properties of the bolt. You can see the length is 5, that, and also if you double click on you can extract the dimensions by yourself. But now you want to go design office and you want to submit this to the workshop, you have to click on drawing. So to do that, press Ctrl and select everything, press Alt and select everything, then right click and come to create drawings. I'll come to create assembly drawings and I'll click on that. Click perform numbering and give it some time to number everything. There we are. If you take a look at the bottom end here, you can see the creating drawing finished, one drawing created successfully. Now let's follow the drawing that has been created successfully. How do you find it? We come to drawings and report here. The moment you click on drawings and report, go straight to drawing list. You will find your drawing listed there, and double click on it. And if there's so many drawings right there, check on the date and time you created the drawing and double click on that particular drawing and open it. So if you can see here, I created same drawings. So at the moment I create a new one, the previous one has been modified. So the current one is this. You can see that it's 13th, that. So I'll double click on this to open the drawing. Okay, here we are, we have the drawing in place. Now I can go ahead and minimize this, and this is what we have at the moment. So we want to slightly comb this up and also remove some views of this drawing that is not necessary. We want to remove this. Just click on it, right click and come to delete and delete it. So you can go ahead and drag this and position them in appropriate manner. Just click on this, then press your left button on the mouse and drag it up here. You can drag it up right there, and also pick on this and drag it somewhere here, so that your drawing looks slightly proportional and neat. So if we have a look, take a look right here, we have a material list for the anchor bolts. We have the plate, the PLT, which is the plate. It is 20 millimeter thick in thickness, and we have 301.8 the width, and the length is 560, and the weight is 2.65 kilograms. So the total weight of one anchor bolt is 48.1 kg or kilograms. So the part mark for the base plate is F7, and if you come here you can see the F7 here. So there's no need of even measuring the plate. We have the measurements right here, so the fabricator can extract the dimensions here by cutting a 20 millimeter thick plate and cut it to 3.18, and also do that by cutting it to 560, and also cutting and bending and threading the rods of 20 millimeter in diameter. And how many is 8, and how many do you want? You probably want, you could be in need of even 50 or 100. One rod will weigh 20.5, and the bolts and all the nuts, those you can buy out. Those are buy out. You can buy after creating a thread that will match or will mesh with the threads that will be bought. Buying the nuts with the threads that will match the pitch of threads created on the anchor bolts. Now we want to get rid of some marks. Just get rid of these. So I'll press Control and get rid of, we have F9 here, we have F9 there, we have F9 here, and we have F9 here. We don't want repetitive marking, so we'll get rid of that, so that we have only one F9. So unfortunately we've removed everything. I'll just click undo so that we can get them back and get rid of just one. So I'll press Control while it's doing the selection. Then I'll right click and delete and remain with one. So I'll remain with the one at the bottom end right there. So even on the top of this we have F8. So instead of having those several names or so many names, just better have one, and we'll delete that. So we'll have this. So I'll click on this so that I can change the labeling type or the labeling method. I'll then select on this, double click on that. I'll access the part mark dialog box here, and then from here I'll be able to customize this to my preference. Now I'll click on this. After clicking on the part position, I'll change the color of the text to black, and also change the font type. I'm fond of using the Roman D type. Just select, once you've selected on this, and then type the font type you want. I'll click Roman D and pick on the bold and click modify, and that's all. You can see that changing, but we need an arrow here pointing to that nut. So to do that, we'll come to the general, then we'll get rid of these by clicking on this drop down arrow and pick on that second option. Then come to leader line type. I'll pick on the first one, and then want that leader to have an arrow right here. I'll pick on that arrow type and click modify. Apply and give an acceptance by clicking on OK. So I'll drag these slightly up, right there will be okay. I can bring it right there, perfect. I have this in place. I can drag that slightly right there. That has been done, and double click on this also to remove that cumulative dimension method, and replace it with the conventional way one. Let me change the color first. I'll give it another color. I'll give it a black color right there, and give that black, and change that text to Roman D, and that one I've showed you how to do that. I'll click bold and give an acceptance by clicking right there. Then double click on this also to change that. We can also select both and do the modification one go. Change that to black and change that text to Roman D right there, and pick on that and pick on bold and click on acceptance there by changing that black. Pick on that black, click modify, apply and accept everything, and that's the way it looks. Now I want to insert the center lines on these rods. I'll click on that, press Ctrl and continue selecting on this. I double click on the last one to access these drawing path properties, and what I want here just to include the center lines on the anchor bolts. I'll click modify, apply and accept. You can see the center lines are in place. So if you come here, we want to remove unnecessary dimensions. We'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of this also, but this is important. We'll get rid of this, but this will remain. We can get rid of this, get rid of that. Center to center of the bolts. We can get rid of this and create a new one. Or we can just come to dimension here and click on this. We'll click at the edge here and click at the center here. And click at the center here. It's not accurate, we're trying to imagine the points to dimension. So this is enough, because what we're trying to do could be a repetitive work which is not necessary. So we can get rid of that, click delete. We don't need that. Get rid of that. Just remove any repetitive dimensions. Get rid of that. So we have it. And we can turn this round by clicking on it, then come to rotate view and give it 90 degrees rotation by clicking rotate, and there it is. We'll close that and click on empty screen, and you can drag it from there and drag it by pressing your left button on the mouse. It's not really good. You just click undo so that it goes back to its previous position. We want to drag this and bring it somewhere here. Perfect. And also change this type of dimension. Click on that and change this, shift it, take it out from the cumulative type of dimensioning, and we'll change that font to Roman D, bold, and change also that, and click modify, apply and accept that. You can see that it hasn't changed, and so we'll force us to go back and redo that. Click on that and pick on that. Perfect. And it has changed. You can do the same thing here and click on appearance, and we want to change this to black. Change that to Roman D and pick on that, click on bold and accept that. Change that to bold to black and click modify, apply and accept. You want to include the center lines, click on that, press Ctrl and double click on that, and the last one, and click on the center line. Click on the center line and click modify, apply and accept. Perfect. We are good to go. So this is what we have, and this can be submitted to workshop and be fabricated. This is much better, and this is ready for use. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I'm Maurice Dimba, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you're new, and let's meet on the next presentation, and bye bye.